My wife told me she was staying with her ex for 2 weeks, and our daughter defended her. My wife told me she'd stay with her ex for 15 days to help him heal, and our daughter took her side. I was standing in the kitchen pouring myself a cup of coffee when she said it like she was announcing a trip to the grocery store. "I'll be gone for a couple of weeks," she said, casually flipping through the mail. "Staying with Mark." It took a moment for the name to register. Mark, her ex. I set the mug down a little too hard. "You're... what?" She didn't even look up. "He's in a bad place right now. His mom passed away, and he doesn't have anyone. I know him better than anyone else. He needs someone who understands him." The words sank into me like ice. My mind scrambled for the right response, but before I could get one out, she kept going. "It's only for 15 days. Just until he's in a better headspace. You're secure enough not to be threatened by that, right?" She said it like it was a test, like refusing would mean I was insecure, controlling, small. I felt my throat tighten. "You're married to me," I said slowly, "and you want to go live with your ex for 2 weeks?" She finally looked up then, tilting her head in that way she does when she thinks I'm overreacting. "It's not about us. It's about helping someone who's hurting." Before I could say more, our daughter walked in, earbuds dangling around her neck. "What's going on?" she asked. "Your mom," I said, "wants to spend 2 weeks with her ex-boyfriend." Her face didn't even flicker with surprise. "So? It's not like anything's going to happen, Dad." The words hit harder than I expected, not just because she believed her mother, but because it was so quick, so automatic, like I was the unreasonable one. I looked between them. My wife, calm and composed, and my daughter, already taking her side. I felt cornered in my own kitchen, like the walls were closing in. "I don't like this," I said finally. "I don't agree with it." My wife just shrugged. "I'm not asking for permission. I'm telling you what's happening." That was it. End of discussion. She grabbed her phone and walked out of the kitchen, leaving me there with a cooling cup of coffee and my daughter shaking her head at me like I was making a scene. The rest of the day passed in a blur. I barely remember dinner. I barely remember going to bed. But I do remember lying there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, hearing her suitcase wheels click softly across the floor as she packed. She thought I'd just accept it, that I'd sit here like a dutiful husband, waiting for her to come home. But what she didn't know was that I had no intention of just sitting and waiting for her to come back. As soon as she walked out the door, suitcase in hand, the house felt hollow. Not just quiet, hollow. The sound of the door clicking shut seemed to echo through every room, bouncing off the walls and settling somewhere deep in my chest. I stood there for a few minutes, listening to the silence, almost expecting her to come back in and say she'd changed her mind, but she didn't. I wandered into the living room and sat down, staring at nothing in particular. My mind started doing what it always does in these moments. Rewinding. I thought about our early years together, the laughter, the trips, the way she used to look at me like I was the only one in the room. And then, slowly, the reel in my head shifted. The little cracks that had appeared over time. The late-night texts she would brush off with a vague work thing explanation. The way she would say Mark called, with this subtle brightness in her eyes, even if she swore they were just catching up. The defensive tone whenever I asked why she kept in touch with him at all. And then it hit me. This wasn't about helping him heal. It was about choosing him over me. Maybe not in the open, maybe not in a way she'd ever admit, but in the ways that mattered. That's exactly what it was. What twisted the knife even more was my daughter. That night I knocked on her door. She was sprawled across her bed, scrolling through her phone. "Can we talk?" I asked. She sighed like I'd interrupted something important. "About what?" "About your mom. About this trip." She rolled her eyes. "Dad, you're making this a bigger deal than it is. He's going through stuff. She's just being a good person." I felt my jaw tighten. "She's his ex. She's my wife. There's a line." "Or maybe," she said, her voice sharp, "you're just jealous. Not everything's about you." That one landed hard. Not because she was right, she wasn't, but because it showed me exactly where her loyalty stood. I left her room without saying another word. For a while, I just sat in the dark living room, listening to the hum of the refrigerator, staring at the outline of the door she'd walked out of. I could feel the humiliation simmering under my skin, but mixed with it was something colder, sharper. I wasn't going to let her turn this into a story where I was the insecure husband who just couldn't handle her kindness. I wasn't going to let my daughter believe that her mother's actions were normal. Number, if she wanted to play the role of savior to her ex, fine. But I was going to find out exactly what she was doing during those 15 days. Every detail, every lie. And the first step in my plan was finding out exactly what my wife was doing while she was helping her ex. The next morning, I picked up my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found his name, Dave. We'd been friends since college, and while we didn't talk every week, he was one of those people you could call after years and pick up right where you left off. More importantly, he worked just a few blocks from where my wife's ex lived. When he answered, I skipped the small talk. "Dave, I need a favor." He didn't hesitate. "Name it." I told him everything, or at least the parts that mattered. He listened without interrupting, then simply said, "All right, I'll keep an eye out." And so the updates began. First, it was a text around lunchtime. Saw them together, laughing. The next day, shopping bags. She was carrying his. By the end of the week, late night walk, hand on her back. No hospital visits, no counseling centers, no signs of the deep emotional healing she'd described to me in the kitchen. Just dates. Like they were 25 again and the rest of the world didn't exist. Every time Dave sent me something, I saved it. Screenshots, photos, time-stamped messages. I didn't want just suspicions. I wanted proof. Meanwhile, I started my own quiet war. I met with a lawyer I trusted and laid everything out. He didn't flinch, didn't sugarcoat. "If this is the direction things are heading," he said, "you need to protect yourself now." So I did. I shifted certain accounts into my name alone, closed a few joint ones altogether, made sure the mortgage and insurance were untouchable without my approval. She thought she was free to act single, so I decided to treat her that way, at least where the law and money were concerned. My daughter noticed something was different. One evening, she came into the living room and stood there, arms crossed. "Why are you acting weird?" I didn't look up from my laptop. "Weird how?" "You're distant, cold, like you're mad at me too." I closed the laptop and finally met her eyes. "I'm not mad. You'll understand soon enough." She frowned but didn't push it. Maybe part of her didn't want to. Days passed. Dave kept sending updates, and my collection of evidence grew. I thought I'd seen enough. Until one night, my phone buzzed. It was from Dave. Just one photo. The two of them on a bench, lit by a street lamp. Her leaning into him, his arm around her shoulders, and their lips. Too close for any innocent explanation. I stared at that image for a long time, my pulse pounding in my ears. Whatever faint hope I'd been holding on to, that maybe this was just bad judgment. Maybe she'd come back remorseful, evaporated. No more waiting. No more giving her the benefit of the doubt. I knew exactly what I had to do. Then came the night my friend sent me a picture that made my decision final. The photo was taken from just outside the restaurant's window. Her head was tilted back, laughing at something he'd said. His hand rested casually over hers on the table. Between them sat a half-empty bottle of wine. The same brand we used to order every anniversary. It wasn't just a picture. It was a punch in the gut. But here's the thing. I didn't rage. I didn't smash my phone or call her in a fury. I just went still. Something inside me went quiet, like the click of a lock sliding into place. If she wanted a clean conscience to keep telling herself she'd done nothing wrong, fine. I'd give her all the time in the world to believe it, right up until the moment reality tore it apart. The next morning, I sat in my lawyer's office. Emotional abandonment, I told him. He nodded slowly. We can work with that. We filed for a legal separation that same day. Quietly, no warnings, no fights, no screaming matches in the driveway, just cold, precise paperwork. I picked the date for her to be served, the day after she was supposed to come home. Not a moment sooner. Let her think she was walking back into the same life she'd left. While the legal wheels turned, I made other arrangements. I called my sister and asked if my daughter could stay with her for a while. Just for a bit, I said. Things are going to get tense. She didn't ask for details. She just said yes. Next, I walked through the house, mentally noting everything that was mine before the marriage. My grandmother's dining table, the antique desk, the tools in the garage. Those things would never end up in her hands. I cleaned the kitchen until the counters gleamed. The table was empty except for a single manila envelope. Inside, the separation papers, a neatly printed timeline of her stay with her ex, and copies of every photo and message Dave had sent me. No dramatic notes, no underlined threats, just the facts. I pictured her walking through the front door, suitcase in hand, maybe rehearsing some speech about how he really needed her or nothing happened. I pictured the moment she'd see that envelope, the way her fingers would hesitate before opening it, the silence that would fall when she realized every word she might try to spin into innocence was already dead on arrival. And the best part? I wouldn't be there to hear it. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction of a scene. I'd be at my sister's, having dinner with my daughter, letting her know that no matter what her mother had done, she was still safe, still loved, and still my priority. Every detail was lined up perfectly. And when she finally walked back through the door, she had no idea what was waiting for her on the kitchen table. I heard the front door click open. Her voice floated in, light and cheerful. I'm home. The sound of rolling wheels followed her into the kitchen, her suitcase trailing behind. She had that glow, the kind people get when they've been somewhere they wanted to be. And then she saw it. The manila envelope sat in the center of the table, perfectly square against the wood grain. Her brow furrowed. What's this? Open it, I said. My voice was steady, flat. She slid a manicured finger under the flap, pulling out the papers. I watched her eyes move over the first page, then the second. Her lips parted slightly. The color drained from her face. You can't be serious. Oh, I'm serious. She set the papers down like they burned her fingertips. This is crazy. We just need to talk. I cut her off. I'm done talking. I'm done being the husband you can humiliate, the one you keep on the back burner while you play savior to your ex. Her mouth opened, then closed. She looked like she wanted to argue. But the pile of printed photos at the bottom of the envelope stole the words from her throat. She didn't touch them. She didn't have to. She knew exactly what they were. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't list every slight, every late-night message, every moment she made me feel small in my own home. I didn't need to. The silence between us was heavy enough to crush whatever excuses she had prepared. She started to cry. I let her. 2 days later, our daughter came home from my sister's. Her eyes were sharp, already brimming with anger. "Mom says you're overreacting," she snapped. I didn't defend myself right away. Instead, I walked to my desk, picked up the folder, and set it gently in front of her. "You're old enough to know the truth. Read it. All of it." She hesitated, then flipped the pages. Her jaw tightened as she moved through the evidence. The dates, the photos, the pattern of lies wrapped in good intentions. By the time she set it down, her face was unreadable. No apology, no grand moment of realization, just silence. But it was enough. Within the week, my wife moved out. She took her things, leaving the kitchen table bare again. I stood in the doorway as she loaded the last box into her car. She didn't look back. When the engine faded down the street, I stepped inside, shut the door, and leaned against it. The quiet wasn't empty anymore. It was mine. I made coffee, sat at the same table where she'd once opened the envelope, looked out the window into a sky that felt bigger than it had in years. She thought I'd wait for her. Instead, I ended it for me.